always were called the Vikings, and we were very successful. I mean, twice we won the cup, and we played several international games, and it was just playing for a club close to the village where I grew up was just was amazing for me, and also being there and knowing each other. And it was a very familiar club. So and we knew we all have to work together to be successful, and this was was unique. The first time after the concussion, it was 4 days later, and I felt a lot of pain, and I went to my coach and said, I think I can't play in the evening because it's so painful. And then we went back to the hotel, and there I collapsed, and then they brought me to the hospital, and then I can't remember anything, so everything I tell now is just when I was told and I read in the diagnosis. And then I had to make an emergency surgery because the haemorrhage just spread out. Fortunately, had great hospital, great doctors there, so that everything went fine. And then they said, okay, it's just not possible to play football anymore. And I was at that time, I was 37, so I was not a youngster anymore, and I was much closer to my retirement, to my debut, and I always I accepted it. You know, for me, it's not, if things happen, I don't complain, and I don't mourn, is the right word. I don't mourn that this happens. It just happens, and then I have to accept it. And I didn't know my next steps in my career, but I needed several months to recover completely, and then I prepared my second life after professional football.
So he was prepared to take up what was quite an administrative role, really, in Salzburg. And then, as has been the case with so many coaches that have gone on to be very successful, his paths crossed with Ralf Rangnick, who was very high up at Salzburg at the time. They spoke about how he could use his football experience to better help the club. And Glasner went on to be the assistant of Roger Schmidt, who has been a very successful coach himself in the future. And so that's where he got that first taste of coaching, that first idea that he could really do this as a career.
I already worked at Salzburg when Ralf arrived, but I was in the office, so I tried to mix my economics study at the university with my football career. So I was at the office, but after 6 months I missed the grass, I missed the pitch, and then it was a change there, and Ralf Rangnick arrived, and then he said, okay, we are looking for an assistant of Roger, you know, the Austrian Bundesliga, and maybe just have a dinner together, and if it's okay for both of you, you can be the assistant coach. And so it happened. I met Roger, we had a dinner, and from the first minute we could see that it can fit.
I think anyone who works with Ralf Rangnick has an appreciation of tactics and of a certain way of playing. And if you look at that Red Bull school, it tends to be lots of pressing, lots of energy without the ball, a certain direct way of playing with the ball. And what's always really interesting about coaches who've come out of that Red Bull school is how they interpret it in different ways. And I think what became clear when Glasner got to Wolfsburg in Germany was that he not only had that ability to set up a team to attack, the main thing was that he could organise a defence. And that really was the heart of them qualifying for the Champions League. And so what you realised was this was a guy who could take that Red Bull education, but put a spin on it, and also bring his own passion, his own enthusiasm to the table.
It doesn't happen very often that an Austrian manager gets the chance to manage a team in the German Bundesliga. And at that time I had 3 offers from the German Bundesliga, and then it was okay, which one could be the best step for me, and I always was thinking also here very analytical, what's the best step for my career, and it was, I think, Wolfsburg. I was very experienced CEO with Jörg Schmatke, who worked in the German Bundesliga for decades, with Marcel Schäfer. He's now the sporting CEO of RB Leipzig. We started to implement the attitude we want to have during the training week, and it's the same. And then there were tough times. I think we started with no win in the first 8 games, but I always had the support from the club, from the board, and then we kept going, and it ended in the same way after 2 years qualifying for the Champions League. So both, I think now in the retrospective, it was the right step.
When Glasner left Wolfsburg to go to Eintracht Frankfurt, he then did go up a level in the sense that not only was he able to have success in the Bundesliga, but he was then able to have a very successful campaign in the Europa League. They were absolutely outstanding that season when they won the Europa League. They beat Rangers on penalties in the final. They beat West Ham in a really tough tie in the knockout rounds.
It was the evidence what's possible to achieve. Yeah, with a team, nobody expected it, and we're beating much bigger teams, yeah, like of course Barcelona, but we had the belief that we can do it, yeah, and this what you can achieve as a group, what you can achieve with hard work, what you can achieve with a lot of belief in yourself and with togetherness. This was the evidence, yeah, winning the Europa League.
Danke für eure Unterstützung, und deswegen haben wir alle uns diesen Titel verdient. Und riesengeile Feier heute Abend. Danke für eure Unterstützung.
It was something I always believed in, but sometimes you are believing in things and you never get the evidence for it. And in this case, we got it, and this maybe strengthened my belief and also my approach to work. Always the team first. Team football, having togetherness and never give up, and so this was maybe the biggest learning of the Europa League.
Crystal Palace have now confirmed that their new manager replacing Roy Hodgson will be Oliver Glasner.
We have everything in the squad we need to win Premier League games. If I would be afraid that we get relegated, I wouldn't be here. So I'm really convinced of the quality of the players. I'm really convinced of the quality of Crystal Palace. I'm really convinced of the support of our fans. And these were very decisive points to say, okay, come on, let's start earlier than maybe planned.
I think Glasner always had that willingness to go to the Premier League, that ambition to really test himself in what he would see as maybe the best league in the world. He made a really big impact early on. I must admit, I was surprised by how well it went, because he has a very specific way of playing that requires quite a lot of coaching in terms of, when to press, how to press, playing that back 3. I think what will be interesting, with results not being as good as they were at the end of last season, how does he deal with that? He's already struck quite a realistic note about that, but he's somebody that's capable of seeing those difficult periods through.
I always want to say that we can lose a game because it's sport, it's football, but if we lose it with our way of playing, we lose it with our personality, because then we lost the game, but we didn't lose our personality, and it's much harder to lose your personality than a football game, because then you always can rely on your personality, and then we know, okay, then we have to improve, we have to adjust, but we are always ourselves.